P in the beginning, everything seemed perfectly calculated on his part. He had chosen the hotel with deliberate confidence, selecting a place where he believed no familiar faces would ever appear. As he walked through the elegant lobby with his mistress beside him, he carried an air of certainty, almost superiority, convinced that his double life was safely compartmentalized. He admired the chandeliers, the marble floors, the quiet luxury around him, feeling as though this world belonged entirely to him and his secrets. In his mind, he had constructed an untouchable bubble one, where he could indulge without consequence, shielded by distance, money, and the belief that he was simply too clever to get caught. It never occurred to him, not even for a moment, that fate had already arranged an unexpected twist waiting just beyond the door. What made the moment even more striking was how deeply he trusted his own illusion. He had convinced himself that his secrecy was a kind of art, something he'd mastered over time. Every message sent at odd hours, every excuse crafted with precision, every carefully timed outing had fed his confidence. As he settled into the hotel suite, he felt almost invincible, as though the world outside those walls had no chance of catching up to him. He believed he had complete control, that he could juggle truth and lies without ever letting them collide. Even the smallest details, like the way he signed the check-in slip or how casually he handed his phone over to charge, reflected a man who thought he'd outsmarted the very idea of consequences. He didn't realize that the higher the pedestal of confidence, the harder the fall waiting just out of sight. And then, just as he settled into the comfort of his own deception, the air shifted. It happened in an instant, one of those moments where time seems to slow without warning. He heard the door to the suite open, expecting perhaps room service or a staff member checking something routine. Instead, he looked up and saw the last face he ever expected in that place, his wife. Not angry, not shocked, just standing there with the calm authority of someone who knew exactly where she belonged. That was the moment the truth hit him like a cold wave. The hotel, he thought, was neutral ground. The sanctuary he believed would keep his secrets safe was now under her ownership. Every ounce of confidence drained from him as he realized she hadn't walked in by accident. She was walking into her property. It was the kind of twist that strips a person bare in a single breath. In the silence that followed, the weight of every hidden choice he'd ever made seemed to land on his shoulders all at once. His mind raced, grasping for explanations that no longer made sense, excuses that had nowhere left to hide. The mistress beside him shifted uncomfortably, suddenly aware that she was no longer part of a private escape, but the centerpiece of a brutal truth unfolding in real time. And his wife, still composed, still steady, didn't need to say a single word to make the consequence clear. In that moment, he felt the sting of betrayal from both sides, because the life he'd built on deception was collapsing exactly where he thought it was safest. The room that once felt luxurious now felt suffocating, and every choice he made to avoid discomfort led him straight into a moment he could never take back. Some consequences don't arrive loudly, they simply walk through a door. But what made the moment even more powerful was the way she carried herself, not with rage, not with chaos, but with a quiet strength that changed the entire atmosphere of the room. She didn't have to raise her voice or demand explanations. Her presence alone shifted the balance completely. Standing there as the new owner, she held all the control he believed he'd mastered, and she didn't need theatrics to prove it. Her calmness was its own message, showing that she had already moved beyond his lies while he was still drowning in them. In that silence, her power wasn't about revenge. It was about clarity, dignity, and the unmistakable confidence of someone who no longer needed to chase the truth because the truth had come to her. And while he crumbled under the weight of his exposed life, she rose effortlessly, reminding everyone that strength sometimes arrives quietly, but unmistakably in the end. What lingered wasn't just the shock of the moment, but the undeniable truth it revealed about the way deception works. Secrets have a way of unraveling when you least expect it, often in the places you feel most protected. He had spent so much time crafting a double life that he forgot one simple reality: trust. Once broken, doesn't quietly repair itself in the dark. It waits for the light. And when that light finally appears, whether through coincidence, fate, or sheer irony, it exposes everything. His story became a reminder that actions echo, and those echoes eventually return, no matter how far you try to outrun them. It's a lesson about honesty, about the quiet strength of integrity, and about the inevitability of truth. Because sooner or later, the life you try to hide will meet the life you can no longer avoid.